In the small town of Eldridge, there was always a feeling of mystery in the air. Alex, a curious teenager, loved everything about the supernatural. He spent hours reading ghost stories and local legends, imagining haunted houses and spirits that wandered at night. Little did he know that his fascination would lead him into a scary adventure. One sunny autumn afternoon, while looking through a garage sale, Alex found an old mirror. Its frame was beautifully carved and sparkled in the light, but there was something strange about it that made him feel uneasy. Even so, Alex felt drawn to the mirror, as if it was calling him to take it home. After he bought the mirror from an old man, the vendor looked sad and said, "Beware the mirror's curse." Alex laughed it off, thinking the old man was just telling a scary story. He didn't realize that this beautiful mirror held dark secrets. Once Alex got home, he hung the mirror on his bedroom wall. It changed the whole feel of the room. He looked at his reflection and admired how the light danced on the glass. But when night fell, a strange feeling filled the room. Shadows seemed to grow longer, and the mirror began to feel like a gateway to something unknown. As the days went by, weird things started happening. At first, it was just small things, lights flickering, or strange whispers he couldn't quite understand. Alex told himself it was all in his head, but as each night passed, the feeling of dread grew stronger. One night, Alex invited his friends over for a movie. They were having fun until they saw the mirror. "What's that?" asked Lisa, one of his friends, sounding uneasy. When they looked into it, their laughter stopped and fear filled their faces. Alex shrugged it off, thinking they were being dramatic. Curious about the mirror's past, Alex began to research it. He found stories about its former owners, each one ending badly. The common tale was that the mirror trapped souls, reflecting their biggest fears. The more Alex learned, the more he felt a strange connection to it. Despite the warnings, Alex's curiosity grew. He believed he could handle whatever darkness the mirror held. But as he stared into it, he noticed changes in his reflection, twisting it into something evil. Yet, he couldn't look away. He wanted to understand what the mirror was hiding. Weeks passed, and the hauntings got worse. The mirror seemed to take hold of Alex, making him feel sad and anxious. He started to pull away from his friends, ignoring their worries. Alone in his room, he stared at the mirror, facing the fears that came alive with each reflection. Whispers filled his mind, making him doubt himself, and soon he couldn't tell what was real anymore. As the curse of the mirror tightened around him, Alex realized he was part of a scary story, one that had just begun. What he thought was a simple curiosity had turned into a nightmare, and he was about to learn that some secrets are best left alone. Alex couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that settled in his stomach after hearing the old man's warning. Curiosity gnawed at him, urging him to dig deeper into the story behind the mirror. He decided to visit the town library the next day, hoping to uncover more about the mirror's history. As he stepped inside, the musty smell of old books filled the air, and the quiet atmosphere wrapped around him like a comforting blanket. Flipping through dusty pages of old records and newspapers, Alex stumbled upon an article about the mirror. The headline read, "Cursed Mirror Brings Misfortune to All Who Look." The article described how many families had owned the mirror over the years, each one facing tragic events after bringing it into their homes. The stories varied, but they all shared a common thread. The mirror seemed to reflect the owner's darkest fears, leading to madness or disaster. One story caught his attention. It told of a young woman named Clara who had owned the mirror decades ago. Clara was once full of life, but after gazing into the mirror, she became withdrawn and paranoid. Friends said she would spend hours staring at her reflection, seeing things that weren't there. Soon she vanished without a trace, and the mirror was left behind, waiting for its next victim. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as he read about Clara's fate. He wondered if the same would happen to him. Yet, he felt a strange sense of connection to the story. Maybe he could handle the mirror's curse. Maybe he was stronger than those who had come before him. With newfound determination, Alex left the library, convinced that he could uncover the truth. When he returned home, the mirror seemed to glimmer more brightly than before, almost taunting him. He hesitated for a moment, then approached it again, feeling an inexplicable pull. As he looked into the glass, he felt a rush of emotions wash over him, fear, sadness, and anger, all mixed together. In that moment, the whispers returned, louder and clearer than ever, urging him to confront his own demons. Determined to break the curse, Alex decided to invite Lisa and his other friends over again. He wanted to show them that he was not afraid. If they all looked into the mirror together, maybe they could face whatever darkness it held. That night, he gathered his friends in his room, excitement and anxiety mixing in the air. As they entered, Lisa's expression changed. She looked worried, her eyes darting to the mirror as if it were alive. "Are you sure about this, Alex?" "I don't think we should mess with it," she warned. Alex brushed off her concerns, insisting they needed to face the fear together. One by one, they gathered around the mirror, each staring into their own reflections. Alex felt the tension rise in the room as he counted down. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. They all looked into the mirror, and for a moment everything seemed normal. But then, the atmosphere shifted, and the reflections began to change. Each friend gasped as dark images flickered across the mirror's surface, revealing their worst fears. Lisa saw herself alone and abandoned, while another friend, Jake, saw visions of failure and disappointment. Alex's own reflection twisted into a monstrous version of himself, full of rage and despair. Panic filled the room as they stumbled back from the mirror, fear etched on their faces. "I told you, we shouldn't have done this," Lisa cried, her voice shaking. Alex felt a sense of dread settle over him. The legend was true. They had awakened something dark within the mirror, and now they would all have to face the consequences. After the terrifying experience with the mirror, Alex's friends left his house in a hurry, their faces pale with fear. The laughter and joy of their earlier gathering had vanished, replaced by a heavy silence that hung in the air. Alex stood alone in his dimly lit room, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't shake the images from the mirror out of his mind, the twisted reflections that showed him and his friends at their most vulnerable. Determined to understand what had happened, Alex turned to the internet. He searched for anything related to the mirror's curse, spending hours reading stories and forums about similar experiences. The more he read, the more he felt a chill creep down his spine. Others had described similar hauntings, but they all ended with tragic outcomes. Some reported losing their minds, while others simply disappeared. In one particularly chilling post, a user recounted a story of how a family became obsessed with the mirror, spending all their time gazing into it. They lost touch with reality, and soon they all vanished. Their home stood empty, and the mirror was left behind, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim. Alex felt a knot form in his stomach as he read the words. Was he destined for the same fate? The next day, Alex decided to visit the town's library again, hoping to find more information about the mirror's origins. He rummaged through old records and newspaper clippings, feeling a sense of urgency. Among the dusty shelves, he discovered a leather-bound book filled with local legends and folklore. Flipping through the pages, he came across a section about the mirror that sent chills down his spine. The legend stated that the mirror was created by a powerful sorceress who had the ability to trap souls. She crafted it to reflect not just images, but also the darkest fears of anyone who gazed into it. The sorceress had disappeared long ago, but her curse lived on, drawing in new victims to feed its power. Alex realized that the mirror was not just an object, it was a living thing, thriving on fear and despair. As he read, Alex became more determined to find a way to break the curse. He needed to confront the mirror, but he also needed to understand the darkness it held. He learned that the only way to free those trapped by the mirror was to face their fears and defeat the curse once and for all. However, the legend warned that not everyone could succeed. Many had tried and failed, becoming permanent prisoners of the mirror. When Alex returned home, he found the mirror waiting for him, its surface glimmering ominously. He took a deep breath and approached it, ready to confront whatever darkness lay within. This time, he wouldn't be alone. He picked up his phone and called Lisa, determined to show her that they could overcome the curse together. "Lisa, we need to face the mirror again," he said, his voice filled with urgency. "We have to confront it and break the curse. I think I found a way." After some hesitation, Lisa agreed to come over, though fear lingered in her voice. "Okay, but we have to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with," she warned. That night, Alex and Lisa gathered their courage as they prepared to confront the mirror. They lit candles around the room, casting flickering shadows on the walls. The atmosphere was thick with tension, but Alex felt a sense of determination growing within him. They would face their fears together. As they stood in front of the mirror, Alex spoke firmly. "We are not afraid of you. We will not let you control us." He took a deep breath and reached for Lisa's hand, squeezing it tightly. "On 3, we will look into the mirror again. We have to confront whatever darkness is inside." They nodded in agreement, ready to face the challenge. 1, 2, 3. Together, they gazed into the mirror, prepared to confront the fears that awaited them. As Alex and Lisa stared into the mirror, a wave of darkness enveloped them, and the air grew thick with tension. The reflective surface shimmered and twisted, and for a moment, the room around them faded away. Instead, they found themselves in a surreal landscape, a dark and twisted version of their own world. Shadows danced menacingly, and whispers filled the air, echoing their deepest fears. Alex felt his heart race as he faced his reflection. Instead of his usual self, he saw a monstrous version staring back at him, eyes filled with rage and despair. "This is not me!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the darkness. But the monster in the mirror grinned, its lips curling in a cruel smile as if mocking him. "Face it, Alex," the reflection taunted. "You're afraid of being weak, of not being enough." The words struck deep, and Alex felt a familiar sting of insecurity. He had always struggled with feelings of inadequacy, convinced that he would never live up to the expectations of his friends and family. But now, he had to confront that fear head-on. "Get away from me!" Alex yelled, summoning all his strength. "I will not be defined by my fears." He took a step closer to the mirror, determined to fight against the darkness that threatened to consume him. The monster sneered but began to dissolve, the shadows swirling around it as Alex's resolve grew stronger. Beside him, Lisa faced her own reflection, which morphed into a vision of her standing alone in a dark room, surrounded by people who ignored her. "You're afraid of being alone," the reflection whispered, its voice dripping with malice. Lisa felt her heart race, her fear threatening to overwhelm her. But as she looked deeper into the mirror, she recognized the truth of the reflection. "No, I am not alone," Lisa shouted, her voice steady. "I have friends who care about me." With that declaration, she focused on the faces of her friends, the memories of laughter and joy filling her heart. The darkness around her began to fade, the image in the mirror flickering and losing its power. The air around them crackled with energy as Alex and Lisa confronted their fears together. They realized that the mirror was feeding on their insecurities, using them to trap them in a never-ending cycle of despair. They needed to break free and reclaim their strength. As they stood side by side, Alex shouted, "We reject you. We will not be your prisoners." Lisa nodded in agreement, raising her voice alongside his. "We are stronger than our fears." The mirror shook violently, its surface rippling as if protesting their newfound courage. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the mirror, forcing Alex and Lisa to shield their eyes. The darkness that surrounded them began to dissipate, the twisted landscape fading into bright light. They felt a rush of warmth and safety, and the whispers of fear grew quieter, replaced by a sense of peace. "Is it over?" Alex asked, his heart still pounding. He opened his eyes slowly, and to his relief, they were back in his room, standing in front of the mirror. The dark energy that had once surrounded it was gone, replaced by a calm, clear reflection of themselves. But as they looked closer, they noticed something strange. The mirror still held a faint shimmer, as if a part of the curse remained. They had faced their fears, but the mirror's power was not completely broken. "We need to finish this," Lisa said, her voice steady but filled with determination. Together, they decided to confront the mirror one last time. They knew they had to find a way to destroy the curse for good. With renewed purpose, they took a deep breath and prepared for the final confrontation. Determined to finish what they started, Alex and Lisa stood resolutely in front of the mirror, its surface glimmering faintly as if it were alive. They knew they had faced their fears, but the curse was still lurking, ready to ensnare them once more. The air felt thick with anticipation, and they could sense that this final confrontation would be the hardest yet. "Together, we can do this," Alex said, gripping Lisa's hand tightly. "We have to believe that we're stronger than the curse." Lisa nodded, her eyes filled with resolve. They both took a deep breath and focused on the mirror, prepared to confront whatever lay ahead. As they gazed into the glass, the darkness surged back, wrapping around them like a cold shroud. This time, however, they stood united. The reflections twisted and contorted, showing shadows of their past fears, self-doubt, loneliness, and the lingering whispers of despair. But they refused to let those feelings overwhelm them again. "Enough!" Alex shouted, his voice steady. "We won't let you control us any longer." With every ounce of strength, they focused on their shared memories, the laughter with friends, the moments of triumph, and the bonds they had forged. Each memory shone like a beacon of light, pushing back against the darkness. The mirror began to tremble, its surface rippling violently as if it were fighting against their combined strength. Shadows danced wildly within, but Alex and Lisa stood firm, their connection giving them power. "We break this curse together," Lisa declared, her voice ringing out with confidence. As they spoke, a blinding light erupted from their hearts, spreading outward to engulf the mirror. The darkness twisted and screamed, trying to resist the light, but it was no match for the bond that Alex and Lisa shared. They had faced their fears and acknowledged their pain, and now they were reclaiming their strength. With one final shout, they thrust their hands forward, sending a surge of energy into the mirror. "Be gone, curse!" they cried in unison. The light exploded into a brilliant flash, and for a moment, they were surrounded by pure brightness. As the light faded, Alex and Lisa found themselves back in the room, the mirror now reflecting only their ordinary images. There were no more shadows, no more whispers. The heavy feeling that had weighed down the room lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and safety. "Did we do it?" Lisa asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Alex stepped closer to the mirror, peering into its depths. "I think we did," he replied slowly, relief washing over him. They had faced the darkness together and broken the curse that had haunted the mirror for so long. But just as they began to celebrate their victory, a soft voice echoed from the mirror's surface. "Thank you," it whispered, barely audible but filled with gratitude. Alex and Lisa exchanged shocked glances. The mirror was no longer a vessel of fear. It had become a portal of release. In that moment, they understood. The mirror had trapped souls for years, feeding on their fears and insecurities. By facing their own darkness, they had not only freed themselves, but had also released the others trapped within. Feeling a wave of compassion, Alex said softly, "You're free now." The voice faded into silence, leaving behind a lingering warmth that filled the room. They had not just broken a curse, they had brought hope and healing to those lost in the darkness. As they stepped away from the mirror, a sense of relief washed over them. The haunting presence had vanished, replaced by a calm, comforting energy. They knew that their journey wasn't over. There would always be challenges ahead, but they had proven that together they could overcome anything. Alex turned to Lisa, a smile breaking across his face. "We did it! We faced the mirror and won." Lisa laughed, the sound bright and cheerful. "Yes, we did. And now we can finally put this behind us." They shared a moment of victory, feeling stronger than ever before. The curse of the mirror had been broken, but its story would live on. Alex and Lisa realized that they had learned valuable lessons about courage, friendship, and the importance of facing one's fears. They left the room, ready to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead, forever changed by their experience with the mirror's curse.